It's the time of year where I have to start lighting my set. I love this. Well, I anticipated that the Silva Method would take me some time, but I didn't think it would take me over 2 months. On the 12th of July this year, I made this video about doing the Silva Method steps. The Silva Method is a self-help and meditation guidance led by Jose Silva. Through relaxation, it claims to increase your development of higher brain functions and psychic abilities such as clairvoyance. And the book outlines exercises that you do over 20 days. It's like a personal trainer plan for your soul. And I followed the steps with great difficulty, but it had a profound effect on me. So let's take a look at the steps of the Silva Method and analyse the results. All the steps are outlined in Silva's book, The Silva Method for Mind Control, which, by the way, is about controlling your own mind, not other people's. A wild premise because overall I felt less in control of my own mind. I'll explain. I don't own the book. I was using the Kindle edition, so it made it very difficult for me to see the steps at a glance. So for this reason, I made myself a cheat sheet, and if you would like to use this, I will link it in the description of this video. You don't have to use it, but it's there if you want to. And we know you want to. You want to lose your mind. So I gave it a good start. And as I mentioned in my last video, I kept falling asleep. Even on days where I got plenty of sleep the night before, I kept falling asleep. The first 5 days of the 20-day training, you have to count from 100 to 1 with your eyes closed, which is literally the trope of how to fall asleep. I'm pretty sure that that method may have come from this. And it was really annoying because I kept falling asleep during the count, and then I would wake up and I would either forget that I was doing the Silva Method and go about my day, and then I'd be like, oh no, I need to start again. Or I would remember I was meant to be doing it and I would try to do it again and I would just feel sleepy again. Honestly, the biggest barrier was the first 5 days. Eventually, I was able to get through these sessions without sleeping, and fortunately, as the 20 days go on, your count gets shorter and shorter. So after 5 days, you count from 50 to 0, then you count from 25 to 0, then 5 to 0, and that made it so much easier. For me, the early sessions, which were all about imagination, were very easy. I have an overactive imagination every day. I have synesthesia, I'm a creative person, it's second nature. So the first 5 days you spend imagining circumstances. Not very challenging at all. Then you move on to dreams. So every morning you would write down your dream from the night before, as well as doing your Silva Method practice. And I've had to write down my dreams for a few different experiments that I've done on this channel, and I have to say, I really enjoy writing my dreams down. When I read them back, I can see them as clearly as they were at the time. And when I read them back, I have such a laugh. Last night, I dreamt that I lived in New York. It wasn't very interesting, but I owned a coffee machine. Last night, I had a dream where I was speaking French and I told everyone that I drank whiskey. Everything was pink, and that might be because of Barbie. Last night, I dreamt I was in Paris, which was also somehow Cannes, and I saw my friend. Now, this was my subconscious at work because I had actually stopped speaking to this friend at this point in time. We had some personal issues that I will not get into in this video about the Silva Method. But it got me thinking about friendship a lot, and it so happened that at the end of the 5 days of documenting your dreams, you were to find a common theme between them. And in several of my dreams at that point, I had either been speaking French or I was in France. Parce que j'étudie le français chaque semaine. And another common theme was friendship. So, having a French friendship on the rocks was quite the opportunity for the Silva Method. So, the end of this little process is to think of the dream and act out how you would like it to go differently, and then see if you can implement those changes in the real world. And also, later in the Silva Method, you're asked to think of everyone in your life and forgive them. And you do this person by person. You have to think of your mum, your dad, your brothers, your sisters. I don't have sisters. I did some imagining. Your grandparents, your aunts and uncles, your cousins, your friends, your co-workers, acquaintances. It's exhaustive. And you forgive them all one by one. So, with this encouragement, I decided to reach out to my friend in the real world, not in my head. And it was nice. We made peace. I did not see this coming from the Silva Method at all. At the end of the exercises, you also forgive yourself. And this year's had its ups and downs for me. I'm sure everyone experiences that. But honestly, after forgiving myself and after doing all these practices, I found myself in a lot of luck. I have been rolling from day to day, having a great time. Being really fortunate, meeting the right people, being in the right place at the right time. So far so good with the Silva Method. The final part of the exercises got you to affirm. Positive thoughts bring me all the benefits and advantages I desire. And I can't fault this. Positive thoughts slayed. You also do a lot of thought problem solving, which I'm really used to anyway. Basically, you visualize your problem and then you also visualize solving it. You visualize talking to people about problems you have, imagining the conversations, and basically in your mind go through any issue that you might need help with. You then adopt a hand gesture that you associate with a deeper level of awareness. And it really leans into the boho meditation stereotype. I'm not dissing it, I just didn't think it would be this obvious. Again, I'm sure all these tropes are linked. So, did it bring me clairvoyance? That was the doorbell. I didn't see that coming. It's a milkman. What are the chances? So, clairvoyance. On day 4 of doing the 20-day training, I had this moment where I was writing in my diary and I knew I was going to make a mistake before I made it. And I know that sounds silly. Basically, I was looking at the page and I was writing away and I'm thinking about what words I'm putting down. But then I also was like, you're going to write a 7 and you're supposed to write 4. And obviously I can just be, well, then I won't write 7, I'll write 4. But then I got to the part and I wrote 7 and I was like, why did I know I was going to write this wrong? I couldn't help the mistake, but I could see it before it happened. Is it clairvoyance? It's a very small circumstance. Guess who's joined the chat? Okay, something weird did start happening to me, and not just this guy. But basically, during the process, I started waking up in the middle of the night and thinking that someone was in my room. I would gasp, wake up all of a sudden, eyes wide open, and I was convinced I could see someone standing in the doorway. But then after a moment, I would come to full consciousness and I could see that there was no one there. This has continued. It happened to me a few nights ago. It's not every night, but it's frequent enough. And I've wondered if I am going insane, or if, because I've been dabbling in astral projection, that perhaps people have decided to start visiting me and are able to whip out of there before I come to my senses. I don't know. At this point, anything could happen. So, I'd covered the first half of the book, which was all about the 20 days of exercises to increase your awareness. Now I was ready to get help from the other side. I had already established in the last video that I wanted my spirit guide to be Karia from Eurovision. So now I just needed the training to wield the power of our connection. And this is exactly how it is written in the book. On the next page, you will receive your first instructions on how to get specific help from the other side. Blah, 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 something about being nervous. Blah, 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 are your emotions heightened? Blah, 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 are you not relaxed? This is why on the next page you will not receive your first instructions on how to get specific help from the other side. I'm not gonna lie, I low-key love the trolling. Why? Because it's Silva's book and not yours. He says it's all good though. You actually already know the instructions. It was the 20 steps all along. The real Karia were the friends we made along the way. So he then just spends the latter half of the book getting you to steer into the practices in order to benefit your everyday life. A lot of it is mental imaging, and I'm totally on board with that. I'm a filmmaker. It's my job to imagine things and then make them appear. And you know what? Recently I made a mood board for a film I was making, and lads, it came into being. Yes, I work hard and I graft, but I also have the gift. He talks a lot about how to counteract negative thinking, like really goes into detail. That's actually something that I'd already trained in because I did the Science of Wellbeing course. So there you have it. Science and Silva, they're the same thing. But honestly, doing those practices are super useful. It's funny because about a month ago, I had a conversation with someone who intensely misidentified me as a negative person, and it threw me for a loop. They didn't know me very well, but it still stung. Anyway, I didn't let it get the better of me. Carrier was there. But Silva himself talks about this struggle because when he first published the book, he got some negative press. He describes it as negative. Personally, I'd be kind of gassed if someone described me this way. An article appeared in the Boston Globe in which a woman said, "We were representatives of the devil." At your service. Silva's response to this was, "Well, did you ask the devil?" Queen! I really do love Silva's outlook from this book alone. I have no idea what he's like in his personal life or any other stuff. He could be wildly problematic, but from what I've read in this book, his attitude is awesome. I can see from Wikipedia that James Randi came for Silva. No one is surprised. We love James Randi. He's the grumpy uncle that keeps the new age spark alive. He might be out to prove that none of this stuff is real, but I kind of see him like Bulk and Skull from the Power Rangers or Team Rocket from Pokemon. Forgive my 90s references, I'm showing my age. But basically, he's not the real villain. He's just part of this world, you know? But there we go. As I suspected, the Silva Method is very similar to a lot of manifestation methods out there. The book goes into detail on specific situations. It covers all topics of life. If you're having difficulty visualizing and problem solving in your work, in relationships, in family, in friendships, in grief, in finding a new park that you want to hang out in, he goes there. And I found it a lot of fun. A little disappointed that Carrier didn't actually show up and it was me all along, but you know, maybe we'll meet in another walk of life. If you tried the Silva Method, let me know what you thought of the practice. And I'll be back soon with something else new age. It's crazy. It's party.